Tuesday morning. You turn on the faucet. Water comes out. A little slower than last week, maybe. You don't notice. Coffee's brewing. The pump station 4 miles away notices. Its pressure sensors log the drop. Nobody reads those logs daily. The backup generator has about 40 hours of fuel left. It was 48 last month. Nobody topped it off. The system is working. The system is also dying. Both are true at the same time. Everyone in the preparedness space talks about the grid. When the power goes out, if the grid fails, lights off. It's the starting gun of every scenario. And it's wrong. Not wrong as in the grid won't fail. It will. Wrong as in the grid is not first. There are 3 systems that degrade before the electricity stops. Quietly, without alarms, without headlines. And by the time the grid actually goes, these 3 have already done most of the damage. The blackout is the funeral. The disease started weeks earlier. We've talked about the people on your street, who they are, what they'll do under pressure. Now the invisible systems behind those people, the ones that keep a neighborhood functional without anyone noticing, until they stop. System 1, water pressure. Not water supply, water pressure. There's a difference, and the difference kills. A reservoir can be full while a faucet runs dry, because water doesn't move by gravity alone in most residential systems. It moves by pressure, maintained by pump stations that run on electricity, monitored by systems that run on internet, staffed by crews that run on paychecks. Cut any link in that chain and the water still exists. It just doesn't reach your second floor, or your street, or the neighborhood. The numbers tell a different story than the one people assume. The average water main in the United States is over 45 years old. Design life was 50. That's not a prediction. That's a maintenance backlog. The American Society of Civil Engineers grades U.S. water infrastructure at a C-. Not failing, degrading. A C- system works until it doesn't. And when it stops, it doesn't announce itself. Pressure drops by 10%, then 15%. The shower gets a little weaker. The dishwasher takes longer to fill. Nobody calls anyone. Nobody reports it, because it still works. It just works less. Flint, Michigan. The water was discolored for months. Residents complained. Officials said it was fine. It wasn't fine. The treatment plant had switched sources, and the new water was corroding lead pipes from the inside. But the system was working. Water came out of the faucet. That was enough for the paperwork. The damage was chemical, invisible, and cumulative. By the time it became a headline, over 100,000 people had been drinking contaminated water for more than a year. That's not a disaster. That's a slow system failure that nobody tracked, because the metric everyone watched, his water coming out, was the wrong metric. The right metric was pressure, chemistry, and flow rate. Nobody was measuring those at the residential level. That's System 1. It's the one I know best because I've stood inside pump stations running on backup power and watched operators shrug when asked how long the fuel would last. Depends on demand. That's not an answer. That's a prayer. But that's layer 1. There's a second. System 2. Waste removal. Garbage. The system nobody thinks about until the bags pile up. Municipal waste collection is one of the first services to degrade under budget pressure, fuel shortages, or labor disruption, because it's not dramatic. A hospital closing makes news. A missed trash pickup doesn't. Until it does. Here's how it actually works. A typical residential neighborhood generates enough organic waste in 72 hours to attract rodent populations that double within 2 weeks. That's not survivalist math, that's public health data from the CDC. confirmed every post-hurricane assessment since Katrina. 3 days of uncollected waste, 14 days to a rodent spike, 28 days to vector-borne disease risk, leptospirosis, hantavirus, salmonella, carried into homes by animals that weren't there a month ago. Nobody sees the connection because the timeline is slow. A missed trash day on Monday, another one on Thursday. Then the city announces temporary service disruption. Then the bags sit. Then the rats come. Then the rats stay. Naples, Italy, 2008. A regional waste management crisis left garbage uncollected for weeks across the city. The immediate problem was visible, streets piled with bags. The secondary problem was invisible. Hepatitis A cases spiked. Respiratory complaints tripled in affected neighborhoods, and property values in the worst areas still haven't recovered. Not because of bombs, not because of blackout, because nobody picked up the trash. For weeks. That's a first-world European city, not a war zone. A paperwork failure cascading into a public health event. This is where it gets uncomfortable. Most preparedness content skips waste entirely. Water, yes. Food, yes. Security, of course. But nobody films a video about what happens when 40 houses on a block produce garbage and nothing comes to take it away. It's not dramatic. It's not cinematic. It's just slow, biological, and relentless. System 3. Internet routing. Not the internet, the routing. Your connection doesn't come from one place. It passes through a series of regional nodes, physical buildings with physical equipment that depend on physical power and physical cooling. Most residential areas are served by 3 to 5 backbone nodes. Lose one, and traffic reroutes. Lose two, and latency spikes. Pages load slowly. Video calls drop. Banking apps time out. Lose three, and the household is functionally offline, even though the router light is green. Here's what most people miss. Internet infrastructure degrades before the grid does, because it runs hotter. A data center needs cooling 24 hours a day. A power grid can shed load and limp along. A routing node at 60% capacity serves everyone. At 90%, it starts dropping packets. At 100%, it fails, and the cascade hits other nodes in minutes, not days. The 2021 Facebook outage took down WhatsApp, Instagram, and internal Facebook tools for 6 hours, not because of a hack, not because of a power failure, but because of a single, misconfigured routing update that cascaded through their backbone. 6 hours, one bad config, 3 billion users affected. The internet goes before the lights do, and when it goes, the smart thermostat stops talking to its server, security cameras stop uploading, phone maps stop routing, and, in a newer home, the doorbell stops reporting who's standing outside. Power is on. The house is still partially blind. 3 systems: water pressure, waste removal, internet routing. None of them make headlines when they start failing. All of them make headlines when they've failed completely. The gap between starting to fail and failed completely is where the damage happens, and it's where you still have time to act. Here's the engineering perspective. Every complex system has leading indicators, signals that show up before the failure. For water pressure, measure your faucet flow rate once a month. Write it down. A 10% drop over 60 days is a signal. For waste, if your pickup is late twice in a month, that's not a scheduling problem. That's a system under load. Pay attention to what happens next. For internet, run a speed test from the same device at the same time once a week. Save the results. When latency doubles, even the speed looks fine. That's a routing node under stress. 3 numbers: 3 minutes a month. That's the audit. We've covered water. We've covered your kitchen. We've covered the people on your street. Now the 3 systems running behind all of it. The ones that go first, quietly, while everyone watches the grid. And while these systems quietly degrade, millions of people are packing bags they'll never carry, to places they'll never reach. That's tomorrow. 3 systems, 3 numbers. Write them down this weekend.